Welcome to US Secret Agenda YouTube channel. The fire of war from Ukraine has turned into a huge volcano in Eastern Europe and is ready to explode at any moment. With the involvement of NATO in the Ukraine crisis between the USA and Russia, the atmosphere became tense. The war was at the door and the great conflict began. Russia and NATO have mutually made huge military shipments to the region today. While the east of Ukraine is now fully equipped with the heavy weapons and thousands of soldiers of the Russian army, the west is equipped with NATO's weapons and soldiers. The clash of these two great powers may herald a very bloody war. Russia is making larger military shipments to the region in the face of NATO's harsh warnings and clear threats. Russia, which has made a very serious military buildup especially in Belarus, plans to use all of its military power in a war that will break out in Ukraine. Today, the Russian Ministry of Defense reported that it has deployed a massive army, weapons and personnel to Belarus under the name Operation Allied Stability 2022. Today, many European diplomats, senior defense officials and heads of state have made statements in agreement that this move of Russia is a big step for the invasion of Ukraine. It is known that at least 2 S-400 air defense system divisions and 12 Su-35 warplanes, Panzer S air defense missile system, Panzer C-1 complexes, as well as numerous personnel and military ammunition are deployed. The purpose of this deployment is to prevent air attacks by NATO with the S-400s and to keep the Su-35 warplanes safe and to use them effectively in a war that may arise. At the same time, the S-400 air defense systems deployed in Belarus have a very serious airspace dominance. Together with the S-400 air defense systems, it will also prevent attacks from many NATO countries in Europe. In addition, Russia has deployed a significant number of nuclear missiles in Belarus. In response, the United States deployed nuclear missiles to Poland. A senior U.S. State Department official told reporters on Tuesday that the U.S. is concerned that the arrival of Russian troops in Belarus could lead to a permanent presence that could introduce nuclear weapons into the country. Military experts in the region say that tonight is very critical and that Russia may take action to invade Ukraine within a few hours. In the past week, there have been many clashes between the USA and Russia confirming this. The hottest frictions between the US and Russia are taking place in Ukraine and the Black Sea. But tensions in the Pacific, Atlantic, Baltic and seas of Japan, Cuba, Venezuela, and even the US Florida and Hawaiian coasts also raise concerns. While Russian warships appear on the US coast, on the other hand, they are harassing the US and UK navies led by USS Harold S. Truman and USS Queen Elizabeth, which are traveling from the Mediterranean towards the Black Sea. It has taken combat positions to the Russian and US navies. In addition, Russia is threatening the United States by openly stating its intention to reinstall nuclear missiles in Cuba. On the other hand, Europe and the Baltic countries are in great anxiety and their armies are on the alert. Especially the Baltic countries are taking serious military measures against Russia. In addition to Russia's heavy deployment today, it will support an estimated 100,000 Russian troops with tanks and other heavy weapons already massed near Ukraine. Looking at the operations of the Russian army and the situation in the region, it seems that Russia's first attack in the region will not only be on Ukraine. Military activity in Belarus, the Baltic region and the Black Sea is very worrying. In the published reports, it was revealed that Russia worked by planning how it would react in the face of NATO intervention. Today, after Russia's deployment in Belarus, the NATO countries sent military aid to Ukraine, but Russia seems like it will never back down in the face of NATO's harsh stance. This aggressive stance of Russian President Vladimir Putin is probably interpreted as his still reliance on hypersonic missile and nuclear warhead superiority. In addition, while the USA and NATO have not been able to find a definitive solution against Russia's hypersonic missiles, Russia's hand is stronger in the region. In response to Russia's armament speed, NATO's participation in the military arms race with equal speed may cause Russia to attack Ukraine after finding an excuse. As a result of this attack, it seems that a great war will break out in Europe. Some countries even seem to show their stance on this issue. Today, Germany closed its airspace to the plane with weapons sent from England to Ukraine. It is also claimed that if a war breaks out in England, he will withdraw his troops. In fact, this may be one of the biggest problems of the alliance. Ukraine is not affiliated with the NATO alliance, it is just a close friend. In line with its strategic importance, NATO launched an operation against Russia, but there are obviously powerful countries within the alliance that do not want to conflict with Russia. This development also fell on the agenda like a bomb and showed everyone what kind of crisis Europe is actually in. And Russia seems to use this weakness in the alliance to the fullest. Today, when we look at the details of the huge military deployment of Russia and NATO to the Ukraine and Belarus border, under the name of Operation Allied Resolve 2022, Russia is deploying a huge army, weapons and personnel to Belarus for the invasion of Ukraine. Russia is sending an unspecified number of troops from the country's far east to Belarus for major war games, military officials said. The West described this large-scale military move of Russia as the beginning of the planned invasion and expressed serious concerns and fears. The deployment would bolster an estimated 100,000 Russian troops with tanks and other heavy weapons who are already amassed near Ukraine. In response to NATO's escalating military operations and sending its army to the Ukrainian border, today Russia transferred to the territory of neighboring Belarus at least 12 Su-35 fighters, 2 divisions of the S-400 Triumph air defense system and a division of the Pantsir S air defense missile system. Russian air defense systems are deployed on the western borders of Belarus with the order to destroy all threats. This will ensure full control of the airspace of countries such as Poland, Lithuania, Latvia and Ukraine, where major NATO forces are currently deployed. Currently, Russian military equipment and weapons are being transferred to neighboring Belarus to participate in large-scale invasion-oriented military offensive exercises. At the same time, according to Russian Deputy Defense Minister Alexander Fomin, invasion-focused attacks will be carried out against Ukraine and NATO from 5 training sites and 4 military airports. Attacks are planned to use the Domanovsky, Goshty, Abuz-Lesnovsky, Brestsky and Osipovishsky districts, as well as the airfields, Baranovichy, Lunanets, Lida, and Machulishchi. Also to Belarus, multiple launch rocket systems, tanks, infantry fighting vehicles, etc. Various military equipment is actively coming, including, according to some assumptions, part of the Russian weapons, including the Pantsir C-1 complexes, could remain on the territory of Belarus. In addition, the Russian missile division in the Crimea is ready to launch a large-scale strike on the armed forces of Ukraine. Russia has created an entirely new missile division to reinforce the 22nd Corps stationed in Crimea. In addition, the 415th Training Center was established in the Kuban. These military units are part of the Southern Military District of Russia, one of the 4 administrative military units of the armed forces of the Russian Federation in southwestern Russia. In recent weeks, Russia has significantly increased its military presence on the Ukrainian border and increased the combat capability of its forces in the region, including in Crimea. Russia has already deployed a motorized rifle division in Crimea and more is on the way. With these military deployments and preparations, Russia seems to have largely completed its invasion plan. Amid the soaring tensions, the White House warned that Russia could attack its neighbor at any point, while the UK delivered a batch of anti-tank weapons to Ukraine. Ukrainian officials have warned that Russia could launch an attack on Ukraine from several directions, including from its ally Belarus. The US again stressed its concern Tuesday, with White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki describing the Russian forces' move into Belarus as part of an extremely dangerous situation. "We're now at a stage where Russia could at any point launch an attack in Ukraine," she said. A series of talks last week between Russia, the US and NATO failed to quell the tensions over Ukraine. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken will meet his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov in Geneva on Friday in another attempt to defuse the crisis. Ukraine's defense ministry said Tuesday it has received a shipment of anti-tank weapons from the UK, noting that they will help strengthen our defense capability. A situation may arise when forces and means of the regional group of forces will be insufficient to ensure reliable security of the Union state, and we must be ready to strengthen it, Russia Ministry of Defense said. "We have reached an understanding with Belarus that it's necessary to engage the entire military potential for joint defense." Belarus authoritarian President Alexander Lukashenko, said the joint military operations will be conducted on Belarus' western border and also in the country's south, where it borders Ukraine. Lukashenko, who has edged increasingly close to Russia amid Western sanctions over his government's crackdown on domestic protests, has recently offered to host Russian nuclear weapons. A senior Biden administration official said the Russian troop deployment to Belarus raised concerns that Moscow may be planning to stage troops there in order to stretch thin Ukraine's defenses with an attack from the north. The official, who spoke on condition of anonymity to discuss sensitive issues, noted that the movement may also indicate Belarus's willingness to allow both Russian conventional and nuclear forces to be stationed on its territory. Amid the tensions, Ukraine's defense ministry said Tuesday it was speeding up efforts to form reserve battalions that would allow for the rapid deployment of 130,000 recruits to expand the country's 246,000-strong military. The United States and its allies have urged Russia to de-escalate the situation by calling back the troops amassed near Ukraine. In recent weeks, more than 100,000 Russian troops with tanks and guns have gathered near Ukraine without an understandable reason, and it's hard not to understand that as a threat, German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock told reporters Tuesday after talks in Moscow with her Russian counterpart, Lavrov. Lavrov responded by restating Moscow's argument that it's free to deploy its forces wherever it considers it necessary on its territory. "We can't accept demands about our armed forces on our own territory," Lavrov said. "We aren't threatening anyone, but we are hearing threats to us." Baerbock emphasized that the West was ready for a serious dialogue on mutual agreements and steps to bring everyone in Europe more security. NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg met with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz in Berlin on Tuesday. He said, "The main task now is to make progress on the political way forward, to prevent a military attack against Ukraine. NATO allies are ready to meet with Russia again, and today I have invited Russia and all the NATO allies to attend a series of meetings in the NATO-Russia Council in the near future to address our concerns but also listen to Russia's concerns," Stoltenberg said. He added that NATO, in the near future, will deliver its written proposals in response to Russian demands and, hopefully we can begin meeting after that. "We need to see what Russia says, and that will be a kind of pivotal moment," the NATO chief said. Lavrov, meanwhile, reaffirmed that Russia wants a quick Western answer to its demand for security guarantees that would preclude NATO's expansion to Ukraine and limit its presence in Eastern Europe. He repeated that in a phone conversation with Blinken, who will visit Ukraine on Wednesday and meet with Lavrov on Friday. Speaking on a visit Tuesday to Ukraine, Canadian Foreign Minister Mélanie Joly denounced the Russian troop buildup as unacceptable. She noted Canada's efforts to help train Ukraine's military, adding that it's currently considering Ukraine's demand to provide it with military equipment and will make a decision in a timely manner. Russia annexed the Crimean Peninsula from Ukraine in 2014 after the ouster of Ukraine's Moscow-friendly leader and also threw its weight behind a separatist insurgency that took over large sections in eastern Ukraine. More than 14,000 people have been killed in nearly 8 years of fighting there.